Okay, so we're going to take a look at some zippers today. I will show you a few different ways to put a zipper in a pocket, and I'll also show you a few ways to fix some zipper mishaps that can happen. So first of all, when you are putting a pull on a zipper, if you're working with zippers by the yard, you probably have a little bit of extra zipper tape on the ends like this. If you don't have that, your zipper is going to look something like this. You can put a pull on either of these, both will work. This one is ever so slightly more tricky. What you want to do is just open up the top part of it a little bit, and then when you look at your pull, let me make sure you can see what I'm looking at here. You've got one side of it that's curved, and when you look in there you can see two channels. Okay, so each one of those channels is for one side of your zipper teeth. Okay, you don't want to try to put it on from this side where you have just one big opening where it's flat on the end. You can get it on there that way, but it's going to be very, very frustrating. So what you want to do is have the curved part pointing down toward your zipper teeth. So the way I do this is I come in at an angle and I get one side in there, and I hold that just between my index finger and my thumb, and then I have the other side come in and at an angle as well. Okay, now you can see I have the tape aligned at the top. I'm going to grab that and then just slide the pull onto the teeth. Okay, so now for this one that doesn't have the extra tape at the top, you're going to open it up a little bit, and again have that curved part of the pull pointing down. You're going to put the teeth in at an angle. Now you only want one or two of the teeth to go in. You don't want to pull this in too far, because then you won't be able to get the other side of the tape aligned. So again, I'm just holding that with my thumb and my index finger. Then I'm going to take the other one and slide it in at an angle on the other side. Now, before I push this pull down at all, I want to make sure that I have the tape aligned at the top. And then I'm just going to gently push down on the pull until I hear a little click. You can sort of feel it click onto there too. Okay, and now what I do is I lay it flat and grab the tape with one hand. I just press it down and slide the pull on. Okay. Now if you do that and you find that your pull is on crooked or the teeth don't look straight at the top, you do want to try again, because what that means is you didn't get it on there straight. Okay, so once I have that pull on there, if I wanted to turn this into a double zipper and I want those pulls to kiss in the middle, what I would do is turn this around and then follow the same steps that I just did for this pull. So I'm going to have this with the curved part down, and I'm going to insert the two sides just like I did before. Okay, I could see right there that mine were not aligned, so I just slid that one back a little bit. I'm going to push that on until I hear the click and slide this down. Okay, so now I have two zipper pulls that are touching in the middle, and they open like this. Okay, so now let's say that I sewed the zipper into my bag and I sewed it in this way with the pocket opening from the left, and that's not the way I want it. Okay, so we're going to pretend this is sewn into a bag now. So I can see when I look at this zipper, the curved part is going this way. Now you don't have to unpick all your stitching and all of that. What you need to do is slide the pull off and then reinsert it going the other way. You can do this while the zipper is installed in the bag. You may have to unpick maybe, I'll guess, 4 or 5 stitches. That's it. You do not have to take out the whole zipper. You just unpick enough that you can get to the teeth, and then you slide the zipper going the other way. I'll show you what that looks like to unpick and get the slide going back the other way after I show you how to put the zipper in the quilted pocket in a couple of minutes. First I want to show you how to put in just a plain fabric pocket. This is not quilted. Okay, so what I have here is 2 pieces of just plain quilting cotton. They are basted together with the right sides facing out. They're wrong sides together. So no matter how I look at this, I'm looking at the pretty side of the fabric. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing here is attaching this fabric to the bottom part of this zipper. So what I want to do is put this right, I have the zipper right side up, and I have the pull where I want it to be on the finished pocket. For me, that's on the left. So the zipper is closed and the pull is on the left. Okay, so I'm going to take this and put it right side down, and I'm going to align this edge with this edge at the bottom of the zipper. Okay, you're going to notice that my zipper is longer than the piece of fabric that I'm working with. That is a good idea to do. One of the reasons I do that is to keep the pull out of my way while I'm working. The other reason is just in case any sort of wonkiness happens, I have a little bit of wiggle room, and then after I have my pocket assembled, I will trim the ends off. Okay, and before I trim the ends off, I make sure that that pull is out of the way so I don't cut it off. Okay, so when I align these, I want the zipper tape hanging slightly over my fabric by about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, and then I'm going to take this to my machine and I'm going to sew this down with an accurate 1/4 inch seam. Okay, so I have that sewn down with a 1/4 inch seam, and the reason I have the zipper tape hanging over the edge of the fabric a little bit is so that when I turn this to the right side, the zipper tape is going to help us hide the raw edges on the other side. Okay, so when you smooth this all down, the zipper tape should hide your raw edge. If you have any raw edge hanging out, it's okay to very carefully trim it away. Just be careful you don't cut your zipper tape. Okay, so now what you want to do is sew along the very, very edge of the zipper tape from the back, from the wrong side. And when you do that, you are going to create top stitching on the right side. So make sure your bobbin thread is whatever color you want showing on the right side of your pocket. Okay, so you're sewing from the wrong side and your stitching is going to show on the right side. Okay, and then you would repeat a similar set of steps to put your fabric onto the top of your pocket. Okay, so I sewed my zipper down on the wrong side, and you can see my line of stitching on the right side. Okay, so next up I'll show you how to create a very similar pocket to this one, but this time we'll do it with a French seam. Okay, so to do this with a French seam, and again, we're going to attach the fabric to the bottom of the zipper tape. I have 2 pieces of fabric here. It's a little hard to see wrong side and right side on mine because I'm using batik fabric. Okay. Okay, so I just made some marks on here so you can see I marked the right side. So this is going to be the right side of my fabric. So what I want to do here is with the right side up, I'm going to put the zipper, right side down and align the zipper tape with the top of the fabric. Now I'm going to take my other piece of fabric, again the X's are the right side, and I'm going to put it right side down and align the edge with the same edge of the zipper. Okay, so I have fabric right side up, zipper right side down, fabric right side down. Okay, and now I'm going to take that to my machine and I'm going to sew it down with 1/8 of an inch seam. Okay, so the reason I used 1/8 of an inch seam is so that when I turn the fabric to the right side and I top stitch it down with a 1/4 inch seam, this seam will get hidden inside of that since the 1/4 inch is going to be bigger than this. Okay, so now what I want to do is open this up and you might want to take this to your iron and press this down. Once you have everything smoothed out on both sides, you're going to sew this down with a 1/4 of an inch seam. When I measure the 1/4 of an inch, I'm measuring from the folded edge of my fabric. Okay, so just make sure you have both sides smoothed out before you sew that down. Okay, so I have that top stitch down, and now when I look inside, you can see that my seam from attaching the zipper is all nice and hidden inside of the seam we just sewed. Okay, so next up we're going to create a mesh pocket, and a pretty common way for this to be done is there's a skinny piece of mesh at the top, a larger piece of mesh at the bottom, and then what you need to do is insert the zipper in between those two pieces. So for this one, there's a few different ways to go about this. The first way I'm going to show you will have your zipper tape on the right side of the pocket, and when you do that, it's fine to do it that way, and then you can just leave it that way if you like the way it looks. Many people like to use a piece of ribbon to cover up where the zipper and the mesh meet, so I'll show you how to do that as well. Another way to do it is so you have the mesh on the right side, and I'll show you that next. And after that, I will show you how to attach this with binding. So you would bind the mesh first and then attach it to the zipper. Okay, so first up, we'll go over how to have the zipper tape on the right side. So for this, you want the wrong sides together. I realize mesh doesn't have a wrong side, so you're just going to sort of determine in your own mind which is the wrong side and stick with it throughout this set of steps. So first I'm going to attach the zipper to the top portion of the pocket. Okay, so for this part, we want the wrong sides together. Now this part is going to seem a little bit counterintuitive. You're going to think you're doing something wrong, but you're not. You just sort of have to trust the steps, and it will come out right in the end. Okay, so like I said, we're attaching this to the top of the zipper tape. So what we want to do is turn the zipper so we're looking at the wrong side of the zipper. We still have the slide on the left. The zipper is closed. We're looking at the back of the zipper. So what we want to do here is align the bottom of our piece of mesh with what we're now looking at as the bottom of the zipper tape. Okay, and now we want the zipper tape to be hanging beyond the mesh by about 1/8 of an inch. And that allows us to hide the raw edge when we turn the zipper tape to the front. Okay, so you're going to sew that down with a 1/4 inch seam. I think I forgot to mention, be careful not to stretch the mesh as you sew, because that will make your pocket get a little bit wonky. If you've stretched it a little bit and it looks a little bit wavy or weird, you can sort of smooth that out as you install the pocket on your bag, so don't panic. Okay, so we're going to flip this over, and when you flip it over, just check if you have any bits of mesh hanging out at this point. You want to trim those away very carefully. You don't want to trim your zipper tape though, so you want to just gently move your zipper tape out of the way and trim away a little tiny bit of that, just so it's not hanging out on the right side of your pocket. Okay, so now what we want to do is just finger press the zipper tape onto the front of the pocket, smooth it down, and then you're going to top stitch along the very edge of the top of the zipper tape. Okay, so it should look something like that. If you're still not happy with how that looks, I will show you a trick for covering that up in a moment. So, like I said, there's two different ways to sew this mesh onto the zipper without binding. Whichever way you use for the top, you want to use the same way for the bottom. But just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you the other way for the bottom of the pocket. So the way you do this one is you're going to align the other part of your mesh pocket with the bottom edge of your zipper, and so I'm aligning it down here now, and I have the right side of the zipper up this time. Okay, so I'm going to align this. This is the top of my pocket. I'm aligning it with the bottom of the zipper. Okay, when I say align, I mean you're going to leave the zipper tape hanging over the mesh a little bit, just like we did before. Now when you attach the bottom of this pocket, you want to make sure that your sides are aligning with the top portion. Okay, so I have the sides aligned, and I have my zipper tape hanging off by about 1/8 of an inch, and now I'm going to go sew this down with a 1/4 inch seam. Okay, so I sewed that down with a 1/4 inch seam, and now I'm going to bring my piece of mesh down to the bottom of my pocket. Okay, and now I can go to the back and top stitch along the edge of the zipper tape. and that will sew this down flat. Now I will say, you can, now that you see the two of these methods together, this one looks nicer, where we brought the zipper tape to the front of the pocket. It looks much like a much nicer finish. So that's the way I would usually pick. Again, I will show you how to cover this if you're not happy with how this looks. Okay, so here you can see I have covered my ugly seam with a big piece of basting tape. Okay, and the reason I did that is because I am going to sew a piece of very beautiful ribbon on here, which will look much nicer than my wonky seam. Okay, so I took the paper off of my basting tape, so I have the adhesive showing here, and now I'm going to very carefully align this beautiful piece of ribbon. This is by Renaissance Ribbons. This is by Tula Pink. It's Moonshine, one of her very early fabric lines. Okay, and you're going to just do your best to align this. I'm doing it fast because you don't want to sit here and watch me fuss with this for 10 minutes, but you want to take your time and make sure this is nice and straight. Use the zipper teeth as your guide to make sure this is straight. Okay, once you're happy with how that looks, you are going to top stitch this down along the top of the ribbon and the bottom of the ribbon. I often use clear thread, monofilament thread. You could also use thread that blends in with your ribbon, or, you know, according to your taste, you choose your thread color however you like. Okay, yet another way to attach mesh to a zipper is to bind the mesh first. So what I do here is I take a 2-inch by about the width of your pocket. Ideally you want it a little bit wider than your pocket just to give yourself some wiggle room. Just a side note, I know this is a small amount of fabric, but most patterns do not account for this fabric. So make sure that you have enough, especially if you're going to do this to a lot of zippers on your bag. That fabric adds up and you don't want to run out. Okay, so what you do is fold this piece of fabric in half the long way with the wrong sides together. Okay, and then you're going to take your mesh and align the raw edges of your binding with the top of your mesh. And then you're going to sew this down with a 1/4 inch seam. Okay, so I sewed that down with a 1/4 inch seam, and now I'm going to bring the binding around to the other side. Just going to finger press this like that. Okay, now I want to bring the folded edge of the binding around to cover this raw edge, and now I want to try to align. You can see after I finger press that up, you can see my line of stitching there. I want this folded edge to cover that line of stitching, and ideally you want the two sides of the binding to be folded in half evenly so their edges are matched at the bottom. Okay, you can use Wonder Clips to hold this in place if you like. And then you're going to sew this down with a 1/4 inch seam, and when you sew it down, I use a top stitch length, so for me that's a 3.5. Ideally, when you sew this down, you want your stitching to fall out on the same spot on the back and the front, right on the edge of the binding. Okay, so on my zipper, right along the bottom edge, I've put a very narrow piece of basting tape, and now I'm going to take my bound piece of mesh, and I'm going to align this on top of the basting tape. Now, you want to be careful that you align it with your zipper teeth so it looks nice and even. And you also want to make sure you don't have any of your zipper tape peeking out under here. So you just got to be really careful with how you place that, and then smooth it down. And then what I do here to sew it down is I top stitch right along the edge of the binding. You probably want to use your zipper foot, otherwise the zipper teeth are going to get in your way. And for added security, I also top stitch along the existing line of stitching here, so you have 2 lines of stitching. Okay. Last type of zipper installation I'm going to show you is on a quilted pocket. So first of all, this fabric was provided by Island Batik. I'm an Island Batik ambassador this year, and the thread was provided by Aurifil. So thank you to those sponsors. And so we have 3 parts of our pocket here. We have a narrow piece of quilted fabric, and we have our zipper, and we have a larger piece of quilted fabric to form the bottom of our pocket. Okay, so first we are going to attach the zipper to the top of our pocket. So we're going to be working with this bottom edge right here and the top edge of our zipper tape. Okay, so I have the right side of my pocket facing up, and I'm going to turn my zipper to the wrong side, but I still want the pull on the left. Okay. You'll notice here also, let me just back up for a second, my zipper is considerably longer than my quilted fabric. That's to give me some wiggle room. And you can also notice that I use safety pins at the ends to make sure that I don't lose my pull while I'm working. So I can just put the pull all the way out of the way. I don't have to think about it until later. Okay, so I'm going to make sure you can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to bring the zipper to the wrong side, and I'm going to put it on top of the quilted fabric. I want the zipper tape hanging off the edge of the quilted fabric by about 1/8 of an inch. And then I'm going to sew this down with a 1/4 inch seam. Okay, so I have the zipper sewn down with a 1/4 inch seam, and I left the zipper tape hanging off the quilted fabric so that when I bring this to the wrong side, it's easier to use that zipper tape to cover this raw edge here. So I'm going to flatten the zipper tape down on the back to cover that raw edge, and then I'm going to top stitch along the very edge of the zipper tape. Now, the bobbin thread that you use for this step is going to show right on the front of your pocket, so be careful what thread you use. Okay, so it should look something like this. You have a line of top stitching on the front, and on the back your raw edge should be hidden under the zipper tape. Okay, and then to attach the bottom, you're going to follow the same set of steps, aligning the top of the bottom portion of your pocket with the bottom of your zipper tape. Remember to leave the zipper tape hanging off just about 1/8 of an inch. Now, important note here, when you get ready to attach this, make sure the sides of your quilted pieces are aligned. Okay, so you don't want them like this or like this. You want the sides nice and lined up. Okay, so after you install your zipper, the next thing you need to do is baste along the seams here, and you go right over the zipper teeth. If you're getting needle breakage is almost always caused by pushing or pulling your work through your machine instead of letting your feed dogs do the work. But I will say some machines, including mine, do not like sewing directly on zipper teeth. So what I do is I sew until I get to the zipper teeth, and then I use my hand wheel for just a stitch or two, and then go back to sewing the rest of my seam. Now, let me show you some potential boo-boos that can happen here. So on this side, I sealed my edge here, but I accidentally forgot to move my zipper pull onto my pocket before I did that. This is super annoying when this happens. However, it's very, very easy to fix. Okay, so let me just zoom in for a second. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just clip the few stitches that are going over my zipper teeth. Okay, I've had to pick 2 stitches. That's it. Now I'm going to slide my pull onto my pocket, and then I'm going to go reseal that seam. Okay, the next potential mishap I'm going to show you, this might upset some people. Oh, look, I finished my pocket. I'm going to just trim the zippers off. It looks great. Look at that. I cut off my zipper pull. Should I toss the whole pocket in the garbage? No, it's very, very easy to fix. Okay, what we're going to do is we're just going to reattach the pull the same way we do when the zipper is not in the pocket. So we're going to go back to all those same steps we did. Make sure that the curved edge is going down as you put it onto the zipper teeth, and we're just going to put it back on. Okay, so I'm going to open up my zipper teeth just like I showed you in the beginning of the video, and I'm going to put the teeth in at an angle, and I'm going to pop the pull right back on there. all fixed. Okay, one more potential mishap with zippers and pockets is you get your pocket all made and then you realize your pocket is opening from the opposite way that you'd like it to. I like my pockets to open from the right because I'm right-handed. This one's opening from the left. Okay, so what I want to do here, now actually before I show you what to do, I just want you to notice that the curved part of the zipper, when you put the zipper pull on, remember we talked about the curved part? The curved part, when you slide the zipper, that's the way the zipper closes. Okay, so my curved part is pointing to the right, so my zipper is going to be closed when the pull is to the right. Okay, so what I want to do here is slide this zipper pull off. Now the zipper pull, the curved part of the zipper pull is going to the right. I'm going to slide this off, and I'm going to turn the zipper pull around. So the curve is going to the left, and then I'm going to put the pull back on. Okay, so once again, you don't need to see these steps again. I'm going to open up the zipper teeth and I'm going to slide the pull back on, going the other way. Okay, I hope you found this video helpful, and if you can think of any other zipper business you'd like me to cover, I will be happy to do a part 2. If you are not already a member of the By Annie Bag Makers group on Facebook, please come join us. Even if you've never made a bag, if you're a bag expert, we have all sorts of bag makers, and you are more than welcome to join. I'll put the link in the description. Okay, have a good day. Bye-bye.